What is going on, guys? I'm back on the mic today from Spectral Sound, and welcome to this week's video. And in this tutorial, well, yeah, I guess it's a tutorial. It's kind of more of a lesson kind of session style, because I'm going to talk to you about mastering. I'm going to take a little break from the sound design. Sound design is all cool, and I'm really happy with the comments I've been getting requesting sounds. I've made a list down here, and I'm gonna be getting to those in future videos. But I want to talk to you a bit about mastering, because it's something that a lot of young producers who are still relatively new, or even experienced producers who just haven't got the hang of mastering yet, they want to know about it and want to know how to do it. And I'm going to talk to you today about why we master. Especially, this is mainly based around dubstep producers, heavy dubstep, drum and bass, electro, just anything that has really heavy aggressive music and with a lot of complex sounds in there. So I'm going to show you exactly how I master my tracks, and I'm going to talk to you about why it's important. So the song I'm going to use as an example is the song I'm Everywhere by Technoax, and I just want to make it clear that I do not own this song. I'm just using it as an example because this song is a professional song that was not cranked through the master that hard. It has a lot of dynamic range to it. And that's key for mastering in the pre-master, to have a good amount of dynamic range and not getting crushed through a compressor very hard. So I just used this song, and I have a recording of it here in FL Studio. Let me turn my mastering chain off, and I have a limiter on here just to keep things normalized. It's limiting a little bit, but nothing drastic at all. It won't affect the sound almost at all. So I have it all normalized, and this is what it sounds like. It might be kind of quiet. You can ignore this automation clip right now. It might be kind of quiet, but if you want to turn up the volume, then you can. But just make sure not to leave it up, because once I master it, it's going to get really loud. So this is the song. Okay, so just playing that little bit. You get the gist. You've heard the song. I actually really like this song. Yeah, it's Jacksepticeye's outro theme. I had to take it, but I like it. Okay, now, and that is before I put my mastering chain on it. This is after my mastering chain. This is actually a really small mastering thing right here. It's just with FL plugins. This is only with FL plugins. And this right here, this automation clip is controlling how hard it's going into the master. So on the intro, it's not going in quite as hard as the drop. That's just a little thing I made because it was distorting a little bit in the intro. But okay, let's go. Okay, so you can hear that is a lot louder. It has a lot more energy. It's a lot more filled out. It's really huge, and I'm always doing a little head bang to it. It makes me want to dance. All right, that's what dubstep should be, right? So what I did here is I'm going to show you exactly how I mastered it. This is the main master in Maximus right here. I actually based this off one of Seamless's mastering chains. This was from his track. I think it was Sometime. I don't know, one of his tracks that he gave out for when you get FL Studio. You get all these tracks from artists, and I took one of his mastering Maximus presets, and I use those. I usually put those on there and then edit them to actually fit the track that I'm working on. So that's what I did here. There's an EQ, just ducking the piercing high end a bit and a little bit in that mid-range. The mid-range, especially right in the intro, was kind of harsh, which I also did this. I just highlighted this area with the Maximus compressor there. This is all this is doing. So this right here is just fine-tuning to the actual song. And then I have the master, which actually makes it really loud, so you can hear the difference. If I go right here, I'll disable this Maximus. Now I'll turn it on. Yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty loud. So I'm not going to spend time on any of these because it's basic stuff. I'm going to talk about the Maximus right here. Now, this was the information when I was trying to learn how to master before that I was looking for. The tutorials that I watched didn't really give me it. And the key to actually making your track super loud is this saturation right here. It's the saturation. You can't just, I was trying to just use the compressor like it wasn't working. And none of the tutorials I watched told me that I was supposed to enable this saturation, and it was just talking about why we master and the difference between mixing and mastering. But what you do here is you just bring it, normally it's like this, which is compressing. So I just brought it up so it has freedom to clip, basically. That's what it's doing. I'm giving it that freedom. But then the saturation. Now, I cannot go into depth about what the saturation does because I'm not entirely sure. However, it is a form of distortion that I can tell, because when it goes up, when it clips right here, it distorts, but it's a clean distortion that doesn't clip. So there's a lot of digital clipping, but no analog clipping. That's why if I exported this and brought in the track, it wouldn't clip. It wouldn't be going over, peaking over the master here. It would stay at 0 dB, and you can see that it's really harsh at 0 dB. That's because I really cranked this. Now, not every song is cranked this loud. I just thought it sounded okay. There wasn't any audible distortion there. And really what I look for is the bass. Once the bass starts distorting, that's when you can tell. Once the kick drum and the sub start to distort and you can really tell, then you're cranking it a little far. With this high end, this high end can be distorted like a lot, and you wouldn't be able to tell because it all sounds the same. And the mid-range, like eventually you'll get to the point where it's like, oh yeah, the mid-range is starting to kind of distort there. But normally it's pretty resilient to that. It's the bass that I kind of go off of, especially the kick drum, because the kick drum will usually distort before the sub does, because the bass is usually stronger. You can see it's bumping up here when the kick drum comes. Yeah, it's bumping all the way up here when the kick drum comes, and the sub is in this range. So what I did, I'll just start once I've gone over this. I'll just start from the beginning. So I just turned the threshold up. Normally it's like that. Just turn it up a little bit, just a tad bit. You don't need much at all, and you can leave the ceiling the way it is for this saturation. I have the preamp at in the center. That's basically how hard it's coming through the the compressor. There we go. It's like these right here are the preamps. You can see I'm moving that pre knob. That's the preamp for all the different bands, and I have those up like very high because I really cranked it through those too, and it's coming through the master. Now, so I have the pre at 50% and the post at 50%. I don't mess with the post. If you mess with the post, turn it up or down, it's gonna clip or become too quiet. So just leave the post at 50. So the pre is in the middle. That's different for every track. The time variables are low. The attack time is at like 1.96 milliseconds. The release time is at 4.3 or so, just somewhere around there. And the sustain is at around 1 millisecond. Just about that. Really low time variables. This is going to make your overall track sound heavier because with compression, this is a wave shaper compressor. If I turn the time variables completely down, it would distort via wave shaping. I'm not going to go into detail because this would be a really long video if I went into that. But if you have the time variables low, but not too low, then it will give you a clean mix with everything, or basically everything normalized at 0 dB. And then, especially since I'm cranking it this hard, once it goes over 0 dB there, it'll stay there. And I have the LMH delay at 2 milliseconds. That mixes all the way up. You can see stuff like this. You can see what's on and what's not. I separated the low bands mainly, like you can see. You can see I have the primary kick and sub, you have the snares, and then you have the hi-hats on the top of the snare. That just makes it easier for mixing. The low cut is at 50, and you can see 200 hertz. You see where everything is. That's what I did for the bands. Alright, so moving on to the high end, you can see this looks very similar to the master. I just made sure it's not cranking too hard. It's just preference at this point. The main thing I wanted to get to is the saturation, and another thing, the stereo shaping. You see I did no stereo on the master. On the high end, I did stereoize it. See, this side is full stereo, this is full mono. So I boosted the stereo side to give it a really wide sound. This also helps a lot, and you can do that on the midsection too. I wouldn't suggest doing it too far on the midsection, but because it could get a little muddy, but it still sounds pretty good. The low end, you want bass. All the sub bass you want to be mono. If you get stereo sub bass, that'll really muddy up your mix. This helps it sound really clean. It'll cut all the weird stereo stuff and make it a pure bass that goes right up the front. So you can see there is a little messing with the time variables right here, especially with the bass. The bass, if you turn your release up, that's fine. Like, the bass is fairly consistent throughout the entire drop. There's a constant sort of sub going, and so it's okay if the release time and the sustain are higher. That's fine. And you can see they're fairly low as well for the mid. For the high, the release as well. The highs are fairly consistent. There's a constant hi-hat, sizzling going on at the top. So it's okay if these are higher. It's nice and fine. It's the midsection that gets a little more dynamic in that range. So let's see, I have saturation on for all of these bands except for the low. We didn't want the low to distort down there. Again, you remember it's very audible if the low end, the bass distorts a lot. So I just there isn't any saturation there. It's just compressing it. It's just limiting it there basically, which sounds fine. It doesn't sound too weird when you compress the bass. It sounds weirder if you compress the overall mix or the higher low end. But yes, let's see, did I do anything else complicated here? I think everything else that I need to show I've gone over, and everything else, all of this really depends on the track. Each track is different. I couldn't bring this master in for another track and it worked perfectly. I have to do a lot of editing. Just like I said, I saved some seamless presets up here, the anticoder, bass antics, and sometime. And when I master my tracks, I usually pull a few of those up and see which one sounds best, see which one kind of fits it, because they all have different harshness, and I can edit them accordingly. So it's just a few templates there. And you can do the exact same thing if you bought FL Studio or the full version of FL Studio. You can do the exact same thing and just save those and then edit them to your liking. But that's how I learned, because mastering is extremely important, especially if you're sending your tracks to record labels and stuff. If you send a mastered track, it makes it sound so much better. Because personally, if I ran a record label, I'd much rather release a song that sounds like this to a song that sounds like this. It just there's a lot more energy there, and it's a lot, people go for that. You can really hear the difference whether you're a sound engineer or not. I'd much rather listen to the mastered version, as everyone else does, which is why we master tracks in the first place. Okay, so I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe for more videos weekly. Like I said, I will be giving sound design videos again in the future. I'm still doing those. But but I just wanted to do something new every now and then. An FL tutorial, I thought it'd be fun. Alright, as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace.